Hello. Hello, everybody. Did you enjoy the conference? What? Did you enjoy the conference? Come on, I cannot hear you. Did you enjoy the conference? Yeah. Yes. OK. Awesome. So I'm really, really glad to be here. I have to confess that I barely could understand anything during the day. What I understood was really, really interesting. And before starting, I'd like to ask you for a big applause for the organizers, because I think they did an amazing job. Oh, I have a question already. Sorry. OK. Can you hear me now better? Awesome. So now, if you could turn your heads to that corner, there is a black box there. There is a person inside that box. And that's the guy that is talking to you through the headphones. So I'd like to ask you for a big applause for him, too, because he's suffering my really, really bad accent. OK. I'm always curious about the audience, and I always ask probably the same questions. And I'd like to know if you are GitHub users. So please raise your hand if you use GitHub. That's good. That's really, really good. OK. I have another question for you. So please raise your hand if you know what Hubot is. OK. We have only a few hands there. OK. So I'm going to try to explain you really quickly what Hubot is. Hubot is a robot that lives in our chat rooms. And it's there to make our lives easier. It removes friction with our tools by programming repetitive tasks. So he knows how to do really complicated tasks, like deploy an application to production. So he needs to talk with several services. He needs to fetch the code from GitHub. He needs to put the code in production. And he needs to restore the servers and all that without none of you noticing. He also knows how to do really, really simple tasks, like show pretty pictures. But today, I'm not really here to talk about what Hubot can do. I thought that maybe a Spanish guy in Brazil, where people speak Portuguese, giving a talk in English, it could be a good frame to talk about languages. I've been really, really fascinated about languages for a long time. Not only programming languages, also like human language. And I always read about like how languages originated, how languages are used, how languages evolve. And I think this could be a good opportunity to talk about all this. And I have an historical fact to you before talking about languages. Did you know that the Roman Empire was the first big empire in history to adopt a single language across its whole territory? None of the other big empires in history did that. They didn't care about languages. And that's also curious, because if they didn't do that, Latin wouldn't have arrived to Spain, and languages like Spanish and Portuguese wouldn't have been originated. So maybe today, we would have been speaking something completely different. I think that it's really fascinating. So I was reading about language evolution, and I found this quote. it's kind of a riddle. Let me read it for you. It says, language is a complex adaptive system that emerges through adaptive interactions between agents and continues to evolve in order to remain adapted to the needs and capabilities of the agents. This is an hypothesis about how agents and how let's say people evolve languages and create new languages and how adapt them. So I was thinking about this, and Hubot came to my mind, because what we do with Hubot is we're teaching this language to a robot, and the language evolves to be adapted to our needs. So it was kind of similar. So I started to think that maybe I could explain Chatops using this kind of hypothesis. So I took Hubot's brain. We call brain to the database where we store everything that Hubots know. And I took the brain, and right now it knows more than 800 expressions. When I started at GitHub, it knew probably a quarter of it. So it was like, Hubot probably knew 200 expressions. That was a year and a half ago. And it's curious because I joined the GitHub Enterprise team, and by that time, there were only 2 people in that team. So when I started, I was like, oh, great, I'm gonna be able to play with Hubot a lot. And I went to my team and I was like, okay, what can I do with Hubot? I want to start using Hubot to do everything, everything that you guys do in enterprise. Teach me, I need to know everything. And they were like, okay, Hubot knows how to do 2 things for enterprise. And I was like, what? So we have this amazing thing. It already knows to know around 200 things, and it only does 2 things for the enterprise. It's kind of sad. It's also kind of disappointing. But then I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure there's a really good explanation for this, right? And then I remember this quote, and I went to the end of the quote when it says, continues to evolve in order to remain adapted to the needs and capabilities of the agents. So I was like, okay, the agents is the enterprise team, so 2 people. What are their needs? Maybe Hubot only needs to know 2 things to do everything for enterprise. That's a possibility. Or maybe they are only 2 people. Maybe they don't have the capabilities to make the system evolve to do everything that it needs to do, right? And after this year and a half, I could tell you that this hypothesis is kind of true, because right now we are 5 people in the team, and it already knows how to do 30 things. So it's not that the team didn't have any need. It's that they didn't have the capabilities to make those needs real. So now that we're growing, we have more expressions. But before adding new expressions to its brain, what we need to do is we need to learn how it works. So when people arrive to the team, they know how to do, how to add more expressions, how they need to know how to use it, right? Ryan Tomeko is the original author of Hubot, and he explains how people learn how to use Hubot and how to extend its brain really well. He said, "This was always my main motivation with Hubot. Teaching by doing, by making things visible. It's extremely powerful teaching technique. So if you join GitHub and you're a developer and you want to learn how to deploy applications to production, you don't go to documentation, like you don't need to read a bunch of documentation or anything. You only need to go to chat and see how your coworkers do deployments. And then you can learn just there, and it's there. You see it every day, how your coworkers do what they have to do for their works. And at the same time, you are learning. In the enterprise team, we have taken that a little bit further. And we try really, really hard to make everything self-explanatory. So if someone new joins the team, we could tell him, oh, just ask Hubert. If you want to learn something, ask Hubert. And they can get a list of commands, and we go even further, and they could say, okay, I want to know more about this command. And instead of going to a documentation page, they can get all the help that they need via Hubert. We use this DSL to express what the expression means, how they can use it, if this person needs any requirements like parameters or flags or whatever, and we add also several examples. So if you learn like how the help command works, you could even reproduce right away how you can do it, right? It's like super easy to learn, and at the same time, you are also like you're gonna teach the next person that come to the team or come to the room and ask the same question that you're asking, right? So after all this, I was like, okay, then maybe we can say that Chatops is the complex adaptive system because it's quite complex. We have a lot of things in Hubert's brain that emerge through adaptive interactions between agents because everybody in the company and everybody in the team interacts to each other to learn how Chatops works and continues to evolve in order to remain adapted to the needs and capabilities of agents. So as we saw, as more people join the team, we need more things in Hubert's brain, and everybody is able to extend those capabilities, right? So maybe this hypothesis was kind of right. I mean, what we are doing here is like we are creating and we are evolving our own language. But when we talk about languages, there is something missing around here that I didn't talk about. And it's probably the most important piece about languages. And those pieces are words. Without words, languages don't exist. We need to create a vocabulary. We need to know how to express what we want to do. We need to know how to express, how to learn, and how to read what other people mean, right? I think that the easiest way to do this is by teaching, first, small, simple things. So, for instance, what we do at GitHub is we express our feelings via chat a lot. And Hubert is always listening your feelings, and it's always listening what you say. And we have added expressions to Hubert so he can express our feelings better than we do. For instance, you could express that something is really wrong and you shouldn't do it, right? I think this is my favorite GIF, by the way. It's quite long. Takes time. It's amazing. Something is wrong, don't do it. You can also express anger. That's pretty simple. And of course, you can also express joy. So those are really simple expressions that are a really, really good starting point, right? But we could be like the whole day adding more expressions like this, but at some point we need something more complicated, right? There is a talk about the Java programming language that Guy still gave like in 1998, I think. It's on YouTube. You should watch it. It's amazing. It's called Growing a Language. And at the end of the lecture, he said, a good programmer doesn't just build programs. A good programmer builds a working vocabulary. A good programmer does language design, though not from scratch, but building from the frame of other programming language. So I'm pretty sure you already have built your own working vocabulary in your day-to-day job. And I'm pretty sure you already know that because you wouldn't be here. During the day, people have talked about continuous delivery. People have talked about DevOps. People have talked about cloud. Those jargons are your current working vocabulary, yeah? And I'm sure you even have more of those that you use in your day-to-day job that when you go to your house don't make any sense. You don't like express like the same things when you're at home that when you're in your job, right? You use different words. That's your vocabulary. And we have done something really similar at GitHub. We have our own vocabulary to express things in the way that other people in the company, in the team, can understand us. And I'd like to show you some of that working vocabulary that we have created in the enterprise team. The GitHub Enterprise is an on-premise product, so we don't do deployments. Instead of that, we build packages that we release and customers download them. So we don't have that deployment expression in our vocabulary. We have this GHP expression, and that means GitHub package, right? And instead of saying to Hubot to do deployments, I say to Hubot, build a GHP. When anybody comes to the room and see this, if they are new, they don't know what this means. After learning about GHPs, they know that what I mean with build GHP is go to GitHub, fetch all the code that from every project that we ship in enterprise, create a Debian package for each one of those projects, then put them inside a tarball, then sign the tarball with GPG, and then give me a URL to download that GHP. That's everything that build GHP means, right? That's one of the words. And speaking about releases, right now I'm defining new terms for releases, and the whole team worked together because releases is one of the pieces in our current workflow that still are not completely controlled by Hubot. And we want to move everything to Hubot because it's a central place that we share and everybody can know what's going on, right? Our problem right now is that even though Hubot can generate these UHPs and can do a lot of things, there are parts of the workflow that Hubot doesn't know how to do. For instance, if I need to pull a patch from a branch to a release branch, Hubot doesn't know how to do that. And then a human needs to go there and say, OK, I wanna merge this pull request into this branch, right? All those we need to define new terms to do that. And the way to do it is to propose new commands for Hubot. This has several advantages. For instance, having only one single place, everybody can do it. we also remove that human factor. If the person that right now takes care of the releases is on vacation or he's sick or whatever, we are not able to do releases. Removing that human factor, everybody is able to do releases, and the whole team works together to do them. We also have more creativity. Now that we have every single step in a release inside Hubot, we could say, OK, you build this package with this branch that had these commits in it, and you want to release this other package, but be careful because the previous package had this commit that fixed that issue, and you didn't put it in the release. We can know all that because Hubot has all that information. And otherwise, right now, we could miss complicated workflows, and we could find complicated problems only because there is a human behind doing something in their laptops, right? So we are getting a lot of advantages moving all this to Hubot. The next expression that I want to show you is start GHE. GHE is GitHub Enterprise. It's just an acronym. This is one of the expressions that took really, really long time to teach to Hubot, because what this means is that we need to start a whole installation of GitHub Enterprise. We had this problem that when our customers download the releases, they install them on their servers, and if they find any problems or if they find performance issues or whatever, we didn't have any way to reproduce those problems. So we faced that. We were like, OK, we need a way to reproduce all this. So we had to build a cloud. It's called Octocloud. And what it does, it uses VMware and dedicated hardware to build virtual machines, and we put our packages installed inside the virtual machine, and we can reproduce our customers' environments. So we can tell Hubot, give me a whole installation because I want to try to solve this problem. And I also want to give you to give me this virtual machine with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 20 gigabytes of hard drive or whatever. We can reproduce any environment that our current customers have. And Hubot knows how to do all that for us. We don't need to remember how to start virtual machines and how to create the packages. We just run the command, go to do other things, and when everything is ready for us, who will tell us that everything is ready and we can use that installation, right? And the next evolution of that is, again, to remove the human factor. Now that I have reproducible installations that I can test things there, what I want is for Hubot to test it for me. I don't want to go every time to perform clicks in the web UI or do commands that a robot can do, right? So we added this test GHE to its expression to run a suite of tests. And what Hubot does is, after creating a GitHub installation for us, it gets all these tests and it runs it against the VM. So it does things like pulling and pushing from Git. It goes to the web UI and it clicks. It tries to log in as a user. It tries to generate GitHub pages. It tries to do almost everything that we need how to do as a humans. And that way, we have removed the human factor. We don't need to spend time going to a web page and reproduce all single cases that we know that might fail by hand, right? We can do other things while the robot is like performing the tasks. And we actually run this command like quite often, and we also have a scheduler that runs for us, right? Every night, Hubot runs this command on its own, so we don't need to care. If something fails, if someone broke something, Hubot is going to tell us in the morning when we arrive, or when we open chat, Hubot's going to be there. Oh, it failed. Something like this commit broke enterprise, and we know right away, right? And the last one of the piece of the vocabulary that I want to show you is license. So when customers buy GitHub Enterprise, they buy licenses. And we talk about licensing. We have a sales team that takes care of all this. And it's really curious because none of us in our team thought about adding this command to Hubot. It was one of the guys in the sales team that after watching us in the chat room, like using Hubot and using all this vocabulary every day, they were like, OK, we also want to do this. They have custom CRM where they can go and manage like the clients, and they have all the information about customers there. But they realized that having everything in chat is really powerful because they can just share everything. They can be having a conversation about a customer and say, oh, I don't remember their license. It was like unlimited. They bought 20 seats. I don't remember. And instead of like abandoning the conversation and go to the web page, they just need to type this command, and the information is there. And they can continue talking about that customer. It's like really simple, but at the same time, it's really powerful. And I could continue talking about commands like the whole day, but I don't want you to like fall asleep. But I want to finish with a couple of thoughts. Going back to this quote, Guy Steele says something like, not from scratch, but building from the frame of a language. Doing this sometimes is really hard. And if you try to do it from scratch, you're really spending a lot of time, and you're investing a lot. Fortunately, Hubot is open source. We thought that it's a really good base to build a language and a vocabulary on top of it. So we made it open source. We also made open source a lot of our vocabulary. There are companies that make open source their vocabulary and their expressions. And all of that is there for you to get and then use it on your own organizations. And if you need something custom only for you, you can write it, because it's really easy to extend. And it's curious because that paper that I told you at the beginning had a similar quote. It said, if we are going to explain language evolution, according to this view, we must tackle it as a part of a wider one. So they also agree that starting a language and starting a whole vocabulary from scratch is really hard. And at the end, it's really more convenient and more easy for everybody to start something based on something else. And we have these common jargons that we can use to start on our own language. And something that if there's something that I want you to remember from this talk, is that communication is probably one of the most important things in your day-to-day job. Having good communication with your coworkers, having good communication with your company, and being able to express everything that you need to do and everything that you need to know in your day-to-day is really important. And you should invest time in that. It's always super important to invest time in improve all your communications. Thank you.